Hi, everyone. This is the 6th episode in the History of Rock series with Amy and Carl, and I am doing my first listens in preparation for when we sit down together and talk about the decade of the 90s and all that happened in the music during that period. My first song that I'm going to be listening to is called Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. I've never heard the name. I've never heard the name of the group. I know absolutely nothing about it, but I'm going to be finding a whole lot about it this week. So you'll get to watch my journey. Now, if you want to watch my journey a little bit more quickly and see what's going up and what's available ahead of time, you can always check out my Ko-fi and Patreon pages and see if you want to sign up for a membership there and just help support the journey. If not, that's fine. I'll see you here on YouTube every time we release something here on our release schedule. So, I am ready to dive into Black Hole Sun and see what this is about. I assume it's early 90s because I've been listening to something early 90s and then something later 90s. And this is my first listen for this week's episode. So let's just get started and see how it goes.
In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises no one knows, hides the face, lies the snake, in the sun, in my disgrace, boiling heat, summer stench, neath the black, the sky looks dead, call my name through Black hole sun, won't you come, wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come, won't you come.
So far, I am hearing another new set of, maybe I shouldn't say set, another new combination, another different musical sound than everything I've heard up until now. I'm hearing some obviously synthesized sounds, which are adding another dimension. Yes, it's more multi-dimensional, as Carl and I were talking about in our last discussion episode. And I also heard at the beginning some, in the intro, there were some sliding, bending notes that were going all over the place. I don't know if those are from the floating bridge guitar that he was showing us in the last episode, or maybe they were created differently, but I noticed that it really featured that bending of the sound. It might be something with the synthesizer. It might be another technique on the guitar. I don't know all these techniques yet, but I noticed it and it stood out to me. I'm also noticing that in this song, the voice is a very prominent feature. And if you remember, I commented in the last episode about how one of the songs I had listened to, it seemed like the voice was so miniaturized, diminished. Here it's not. This melody is also identifiably melodic, although very simple up until this point. But all the different instrumental sounds and textures around it are helping to keep it dynamic up until this point. So I'm just going to keep going. That's what I've noticed so far. And I'm curious to see what comes next.
Stood a ring, the snakes in my shoes, walking sleep in my youth. I pray to keep heaven send hell away. No one sings like you anymore. Black hole sun, won't you come?
The melody is very much a simple song style. Some of what I'm hearing here is reminding me of a musical style sound approach to the sound that I hear a lot in another project I'm working on right now, which is Pink Floyd's The Wall. And I'm hearing him, or this group, use a lot of the same types of sound and textures and colors that I have heard in the Wall album. It's interesting to hear it now from a different artist, from a different band, and hear it applied in a different context. I'm sorry I stopped it right in the middle of that whole long passage, but I wanted to tell you what was coming to mind there. So here we go. Going to keep going.
Till you all just disappear. Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun,
it really sounds like they like that strong bass sound in here.
Black hole sun,
just like it keeps going and going and going and going.
Wash away the rain, black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come?
Sometimes I hear voices coming in the background of other places.
Won't you come? Won't you come?
I guess the thing that surprises me so much about listening to this is the fact that it reminded me of Pink Floyd's The Wall. I was not expecting to hear something in the 90s that took me back to that Wall album, which I know came a bit earlier than the 90s. But at the same time, it's not Pink Floyd, of course. This is something different. And yet again, it's something different from what I heard in the 80s. And at the same time, I am hearing and noticing the progression, the development of what I would call the orchestration. I don't know what other term to use, but maybe instrumentation would be a good one, where it has to do with the production elements that are going into this that Carl has been telling me about as the course is progressing and how technology is advancing things. And I'm hearing it in the music. I do hear how the ability to manipulate the sound and change the sound layers and volumes is really being more standardized in maybe not standardized. It's becoming a more standard part of these songs, where this one I can hear that it's not going to be like this recording if it were done perfectly naturally live, meaning the balancing of the sounds, the different parts, those faint little vocal parts coming in the background behind the main voice, the way that the thicker middle part stands out. All of that I can understand now and put in place that this is significantly different from what came 2 or 3 decades before it. And that's interesting to me. But I'm also curious to hear from Carl about the musical style that I'm hearing and hear more about it and maybe figure out, why does it remind me of Pink Floyd? Is it just because I have so little context still, so little to relate it to within this large, broad rock umbrella? Or is there some connection there that is legitimate? I don't know. So I'm curious to find out. I will be asking Carl about that, and you will get to hear us discuss it along with whatever else he wants to bring out about it. And I look forward to hearing you. I have another song I have to listen to, so that's the next one that's coming, and you will get to watch me hear one from the later 90s before we sit down over the coming weekend to talk with Carl. I'll see you soon.